Timing.
For more information on this or other KUCI programs, visit kuci.org or kucitalk.org.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Entrepreneurship Nation. I'm your host, Ash Kumra. What's going on? This is KUCI 88.9 FM. What's going on, everybody? I am so excited to have this show with you. This is actually a special segment because a lot of people had actually asked me about just talking about the state of entrepreneurship, because we'd actually talked about, things that are happening in not only just Orange County, but just in the Southern California area in general. And we've had some great guests. Big shout out to some of them. Vince Vitale with Youngry, Deidre Newman with Orange County Business Journal, Giancarlo Maniaci, I love saying that name. What up, Giancarlo? Andrew Bermudez with Digsy, Brianna Bremer with the UCI Entrepreneur Center, and Lee Decker, the man behind the brains of Orange County Tech Happy Hour. And of course, we had a call-in from Ryan Blair, best-selling author, uber successful entrepreneur, venture capitalist with #1. And this is a cool segment because I want to talk about some trends that I am noticing. For those of you who aren't as familiar with my background, I like to think of myself as an evangelist for entrepreneurship. I have been around the scene for over 10 years now. Yes, I do look like I'm 55, but what can I say, Botox. And it's been a great time. I've seen things from both a founder perspective, a author perspective, as a community builder perspective, and as an advisor and someone who's helped some companies get exits, win on things like Shark Tank. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm just trying to give you the breadth of kind of the knowledge and experiences that I have. And the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about today is this trend on what are those industries that people really are excited about. Now, one of the things that I've had the pleasure of having with our different guests and people is I get to talk to them offline about what are the things that excite you. Some people are backers, some people are, the hardcore founder, entrepreneur types, and then some people are just the evangelists, the community builders, or the people that are making the ecosystem happen. I will tell you this much. I have a thesis. Does not matter what ecosystem you're in, whether you're in Orange County, you're in Silicon Beach, you're in Silicon Valley, you're in New York. Actually, I'm going to be in New York this coming week, so big ups to Silicon Alley. It's all about the 4 types of people. Now, early stage entrepreneurs are the bread and soul of any entrepreneur ecosystem. Now let me be specific. These are the guys and girls and people that are hustling, working on their companies, that are trying to make that dream come true. These are people that are in that bootstrap stage to I'm trying to get revenues, to the infamous I got an MVP, to hey, I want to get funding in. Thanks. What up, Marley? How you doing, girl? And thanks for tuning in, Jennifer Moody. I love your support. It's always awesome. And I think the early stage entrepreneurs are just so the people that we have to help. They are the people that are the soul, the young and early experienced type of individuals, and you have to help them out. They are the people that you can never not make their dreams come alive. So that's the one part of it. The second part is, in our last show we had this, Andrew Bermudez and Giancarlo Maniaci. I just love saying that. I was like an Italian baron in another lifetime. I was telling him, you gotta, this is serial entrepreneurs. These are the men and women that have been there, done that. They're the people that have either had an exit, like Giancarlo, or have raised money very well, like Andrew Bermudez with Digsy, or these are the people that have, have had a setback. I don't like to talk about failure. Failure is not something that you should embrace. If you have a setback, it's a learning experience. Because check this out, if you're doing something and you grow from it and you don't make that mistake again, or you do something, then why are you calling it a failure? It's actually a learning experience. It's something that should hold you there. So therefore, those types of people would also qualify as the early stage, the serial type of entrepreneurs. Now, the next level is someone that is the investor. This is the money people. It's interesting. I've been reading so much online about Peter Thiel being an investor for people like Mark Zuckerberg and helping create PayPal and, helping launch or accelerate the launch of Sean Parker, and now he's getting wrapped for the whole Donald Trump thing. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, by the way, because I normally don't want to get political on shows, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts because he is technically a part of this ecosystem as an investor. So those investors are people that make it happen. Generally, they could be serial entrepreneurs. Like, for instance, Giancarlo mentioned that he does investing outside of the building his another business, and he's had a lot of businesses. So those people are clearly important. And then the last piece, and I did this with Brianna Bremer and Lee Decker, and you can sometimes be a combination of a serial entrepreneur investor, and then you can also be this service provider. Now, what I mean by service provider is that you are in the evangelism game. You're the guy or girl that's setting up the events, the community evangelist, the people that do, startup grind events, or out here in Orange County, there's things that like the UCI Cove is doing, or Orange County Tech Happy Hour, or Tech Coast Venture Network, or even when Tech Coast Angels decides to, do an event where they're not really investing, they're just setting it up where you can meet other Tech Coast Angel kind of individuals and other people. That's a service provider. So at the end, every ecosystem has these 4 components: early stage entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, investors, and then service providers. Now, the latter 3, you can combine them. When it comes to the early entrepreneur, you can be involved as a service provider. One of the best things that I recommend every entrepreneur to do if you're early and you're looking to just develop relationships, and you don't want to just be the guy or girl who's just pitching your business all the time for money or for traction. You want to give back. And the way you can give back is by joining these community groups. I made a conscious decision in my early days as an entrepreneur, both locally and nationally. I decided to get involved in some local organizations in my total green heyday where I couldn't tell the difference between, chasing something for passion or chasing something for trend. And as I scaled, I got involved on national initiatives like Startup America and things like that. I'm not telling you to brag. I'm just saying that that's my secret. I get asked this a lot. Like, how do you get involved in all these groups? How does it help you? Well, if I didn't get involved with those groups in my early days, I wouldn't have been able to develop relationships for people who later became my investors, my mentors, fellow serial entrepreneurs. I met Andrew Bermudez when I was very active with Tech Coast Venture Network. If I'm so indebted to that group, because without that group, I wouldn't be able to meet him, and he's a great friend, and he was on our show. Or I would have been able to develop a relationship with people like Brianna Bremer, who is now the executive director of Tech Coast Venture Network. I actually went to her when Tech Coast Venture Network needed an exec director, and I was like, hey, I'm really involved in this group. This group's about to make a difference. What do you think? And she, at the time was like, I'm looking to make bigger dent in the entrepreneur ecosystem in OC. I'm looking to work with groups that I can accelerate my brand name and give back. And boom, she got that. And prior to that, she's already been a rock star with the Entrepreneur Center. But that's why it's so important for you to just get involved in the service provider side. Now, the other side of service provider are the sponsors. These are the people that sponsor events. They provide the tactical hands-on things. So one thing that I'm really appreciating more and more of is all these people that are providing CFO or HR services or payroll services or legal services. It's clearly obvious when you look at stories like The Social Network and other kind of startup stories. Sometimes the legal documentation is what makes or breaks who owns the company, who has the right to call themselves a founder, who has the right to say this is the way the business should be, all this stuff. And I would invite you to be open to the idea that as early as your business is getting started, have a legal service provider, whether they are a paid law firm where you have the money, or they're on some arrangement where you are, telling them or suggesting to them, you know what, I don't have the money yet, but is there some barter or some trade or something, or something where you can give me some limited time and it won't cost you as much, or I can limit the fees for now. Or the lastly is give them a piece of equity. I mean, I don't know how many of you know about this, but when Google was in its earlier heyday, there were some firms that chose to get equity. Now, not every law firm is as entrepreneurial to take that idea, the latter part, but if you can do it and it's fair, I suggest you do it, because they have your vested interest to make your business thrive. They're creating your legal documentations, or helping you create the legal documentation, and they're not going to want to have some Shark Tank type of arrangement, because they know how the game is. They know that investors are going to come in, and other founders, and ESOP, employee stock option plans and stuff like that. So that's why I think for the service providers, you really got to work with those lawyers that get it at the early stage. One other thing, and I'm really starting to appreciate this, and I don't know, is there anyone who's live that's in the CFO accounting business? And I'd love to hear your perspective on this. As soon as you launch, get a bookkeeper. And as you scale, get a part-time CFO. And when you need to, get, of course, a CFO. But not everyone needs a full-time CFO in those early stages. But you definitely need it once you're scaling, you're getting revenues, or you're getting inbound investments, things like that. But I'm just curious to hear if anyone wants to talk about that on this, because I'm seeing more and more that the power of CFOs and the power of the bookkeeper types are so important. And by the way, if anyone has an experience in how a CFO bookkeeper has helped them in the early stage of their business, it'll be very helpful, because here's the deal: we all have to pay taxes. I know, we're reading or we're seeing the elections about, how taxes, some people can get away from taxes, or some people want to do different tax plans. It doesn't matter who wins the presidency. You still have to pay taxes. Even if you don't pay them now, you have to pay them later. You have to pay taxes. That's a little thought on why the power of the financial people are so important. It's funny. My one of my great pals and a business advisor and something else, Joseph Home, just joined, and he actually brought up something to me, and that is what are the financing vehicles that you can do when you're early? Okay, so to get everyone up to speed so far, we've already talked about understanding the ecosystem, the early stage entrepreneurs, the serial entrepreneurs, the mentors and the investors, and then of course the service providers. And sometimes you can be one of the other. Mentor or a serial entrepreneur could be an investor, or one of the two can be a service provider because they're giving a service. They might want to jump into that, whatnot. So that's something for you to consider and understand when you're getting involved in any ecosystem. Let's talk about financing. I don't want to just talk about early equity funding or seed funding is a thing. Let's talk about something that's happening a lot, and I'm glad Joseph joined. Equity crowdfunding or donation-based crowdfunding. Let's just say crowdfunding to keep it simple. Crowdfunding, at the end of the day, in my opinion, and you guys can quote me, I'm on Facebook Live, I'm on air, the show's going to be recorded, is, in my opinion, the ultimate seed investment vehicle. Now, in some industries, it hasn't been adopted like this, but in some industries, you have constantly seen crowdfunding used as that seed/first stage investment opportunity, so that you can go out and get the money that you need and raise it, and then use that to solicit customers, solicit production, or you can solicit people who could down the road invest. And what show kind of taught me about this, and tell me what you all think, is Shark Tank. I've seen more and more, depending on which seasons, of course, because crowdfunding, especially Kickstarter and Indiegogo, hasn't been as prevalent in earlier seasons, is people are pitching, right, to the Cubans and the Robert Herjavec's and all those people. And they're saying, we got $100,000 in sales. And they're like, how did you get that? Oh, we got pre-orders. How did you do that? Kickstarter. Now, that is legit. You are doing a crowdfunding campaign, and the money that comes in for a product. Now, I'm not giving you tax advice. I'm not giving you legal advice, but from a just practical, no-nonsense business, if you are saying you got $100,000 and that is going to help create X amount of orders, then you got product sales. You've got product sales. So the question then is, why or how or when should more people do crowdfunding? Because I should say, when you have a basic idea, you understand your market, you have some edge to you. One of the things that I'm seeing with crowdfunding trends, and Joseph, I really am calling you out, brother, because I want you to either agree or disagree, is you should do a crowdfunding campaign when you have a understanding of a core market who you feel you're serving a need to, or you are fulfilling that need, I should say. Because generally crowdfunding, the campaigns that I've seen that have worked, whether it's donation or equity, they are ones that have found a target market and they've just gone for it. They are not the deal that says, I am just creating a product, here's it, check it out, or I'm creating a website, or I'm creating some type of a unique service, and I want the world to have it. Okay, good luck on that. What instead you should say, hey, I'm in the automobile industry. I came up with this new race car engine that can, make gas injection a lot more efficient. It can make the car perform better. It is for the auto enthusiasts or for the people who want to, get a car and they're into modifications. One of my buddies, Mike Brown, would appreciate that comment. So that is an example of a niche. Or here's another niche. I saw an awesome brand on a platform called republic.co. And just a disclaimer, I'm friends with them and I've worked with them, but I have no equity stake in them. So on public radio, I'm allowed to talk about them. They have this awesome product called, they have one of the deals on their site called Farm from a Box. Now, Farm from a Box is really awesome. This is for the off-grid culture. The people who want to be on a farm or want to be off the grid. They don't want to have city life. They don't want to, be places where they're dependent on, outside produce or electricity and things like that. I also think it's great for the Burning Man culture, to be very honest, that the people who want to live and do those kinds of concerts and live in that lifestyle, whatnot. But that's a whole nother conversation. I hope if someone from Farm to Box is on, I'd love to hear your feedback. But anyways, they are doing well, in my opinion. And again, I have no affiliation with them other than I'm just a fan and I've worked on their platform as with a company I have. But we have no relation to them in any way or even the platform from an equity or ownership standpoint. So I can say this. They have done this where they have really worked on the sustainable kind of organic, the audience that's wanting that sustainable product audience. And they've done so well they're continuing to do well that they are pitched themselves at South by Southwest, that an ecological kind of conscious capitalism version that just happened 1 or 2 weeks ago. And if you look at their page, you can see that the feedback people are getting, this is needed for the environment, because you can have literally this farm in wherever you live, off grid, that is eco power or solar power, that can grow your own crops and stuff like that. They're smart. They focus on a specific niche. Now, let's look at a bigger niche. Let's look at virtual reality. Now, I think it's obvious that when you think of equity or donation or just crowdfunding as a whole, a company that's just crushed it was Oculus. Oculus, if you look at their pitch, their early pitch, and they're quite old now. They've been around for a few years. They did this on Kickstarter a while ago. But if you look at Oculus, they really focus on that enthusiast, that fanboy, the gadget person, the person who is all about, buying, the latest mods for their phone. Or for me, I'm obsessed with my Beats wireless headsets, stuff, just the gadget culture, or someone who's into that futuristic, that just love technology. That's why they did it. And their campaign just crushed it. That campaign is still the talk for many just crowdfunding campaigns, whether it's donation or equity. And what's cool about that is they just focus on that core niche. So I feel with crowdfunding, really take ownership of that. If you really found a core niche that you can help solve as a problem. Now, let's say you're past the crowdfunding stage, or let's say you raised the crowdfunding. Okay, and you still need capital. You need a scale. And my disclaimer for traditional investment, this is equity investment. This is and again, non-lawyer, so just a disclosure, someone who wants to do convertible note, someone who wants to do that equity round, someone who wants to do a safe note round, someone who wants to do that first round, they usually call it seed round. I always suggest you raise money when the engine is already started and you want to make it better and faster, not to create the engine. That's why I like crowdfunding, because you can use that to create the engine, share the vision, share where it's going to go, and then from there you scale a little and you get those first customers, or you figured out that you have to, they call it pivoting, which is totally fine in entrepreneurship. Then you decide to realize we need more money. We need to go big or go home. You want to make this big. There's nothing wrong with hustle and ambition. I mean, geez, if you look at all these shows on TV, they have that hustle ambition thing, whether it's Showtime Billions or Empire or Silicon Valley or even Entourage or, a Shark Tank, of course, and CNBC. I mean, geez, you see all these amazing shows that are about that going big. And it's fine, because personally, if you don't go big, going big creates more jobs, and it creates an inspiration for other entrepreneurs. Anyhow, that's when you should go for that funding. And the more of the traction that you have, where you can use a crowdfunding deal, or you can use product sales, or you can use a contract, or you can use A/B testing is something that they call. The more of that you have, or rockstar founders who are all in, or giving their time, or investing money, or team members that are amazing, or you have a kind of a good leverage to scale this better than anyone else in your market. These are all factors for leverage. Then you're going to get better investment terms. Now, the key with investing is, here's the deal, guys and girls. There's a lot of money out there, okay? If you look up the trends, how you go on a site like AngelList and you look up how many investors are out there, and you can even target it on niche and how many, what investments they did. There are people that are actively investing. They are scouring the internet. I'm getting solicitations every week from people saying, what are the deals we should look at? I'm getting forwarded some opportunities to look at, saying, hey, what do you think? Is this fundable or not? Not like every day, but like every week or so, I'm getting these. And there's money out there. The question is are you the right money for the right person? So going back to that, if you are going to go for funding, i.e. that first round, seed round, you got to go for the right kind of investor. Some investors want that leverage that I mentioned, which is pretty much predominant. Some people are just, enthusiasts. They just want to, they're at a small level. They just want to give you money and they just believe in you. There's a great saying that I've heard from many successful investors, and I've seen this at some events, and I totally endorse this, is always bet on the jockey, not the horse. It is a team sport. It is the founders who are going to make it happen. And that's so important because your business can change, your idea can change, all these things can change, but the founder, that hustle, that thrive, that wanting to make the world better, that's something that you always have to bet on. And that's what's so important for many of these investors when you are going into this game. So you're getting the right investor, you've done the leverage that I talked about, then you get the money, then you got to scale more. Now, this is a great conversation because there's something that I've been reading about called the Series A crunch. Now, for those who don't know what that is, it's the thesis that so many people are hustling, getting a seed investment, i.e. that first round, but there's a limited amount of people that can get the Series A, either because the Series A investors, people who want to give more money, are focusing on the investments they already did, so they want to give more to them, which makes total sense. It's your investment. You want to make sure it keeps growing. Or there's just a lack of capital because sometimes Series A investments are putting in more money and they have limited funds. So with limited funds, you're going to go get, you're not going to have as many chances to bet on it from an investor perspective. Here's my take on that, and I'm just speaking from the experts that I work with. I'm not telling you, this is not Ash's Oracle thing. This is a show, again, Entrepreneurship Nation, is where I share great sage advice from the many experts that are in this entrepreneur ecosystem. Now, I've had these conversations, so I'm just sharing what I have seen from people who've been there, done that. I think it's always important when you're soliciting investment advice, or you have advisors who want to guide you on the investment cycle, or you just want to, take feedback from someone just, over a drink or coffee or things like that, to find out, have they actually raised money, or have they actually been in the investment process? Have they sold a company? Have they been involved in a fundraising thing? Not just a non-entrepreneur or investment, just an academic type of person. Now, it's fantastic to look at theories and trends and stuff, but unless you're in the game personally, I don't know how valid that statement could be. Although those people do understand macro trends, which can help you, which is another conversation. So back to that conversation. Regarding the Series A crunch and things like that, here's the deal. Focus on what you're doing. We're ending in a few minutes, and this will kind of lead to the exit part. Focus on being the best company. Be the best business you can be. Be a business for you. Don't be a business to build and outcompete people. Build a business to outcompete yourself, to constantly challenge yourself, have your team challenge themselves, constantly do things that are inspiring people, that are having the best product, that are having the best value. If you're in the retail game, the quality, or setting a certain price point, or if you have a higher price point, i.e. the Apple Tesla model, then give a reason, or have something that is just an offer they couldn't refuse. You know what I mean? Last thing on that is always follow a passion, not a trend. I always say this to people. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say I wanted to do a social network. All right, actually, I'm going to use someone here. Raj Rao joined, buddy of mine. What up, Raj? Raj is in the medical industry, okay? And let's say, and he works with hospitals, and this is all public, so Raj, you shouldn't get offended by calling you out. Raj works with hospitals, and hospitals have what? Doctors, nurses, surgeons. That's a huge market, okay, across the country. Let's say I wanted to create a social network just for doctors, nurses, basically people who work in hospitals, all right? Now, here's the deal. If I did this for the reason that, oh, there's a lot of money, the spending income of a doctor or a nurse or a surgeon or a medical profession is a lot of money. And to some degree, depending on what type of medical field you are, there is. Now, that's your reason, that there's a lot of them and they spend a lot and they have money. And advertisers love that audience because they can push helpful, healthy food products and other things because you tend to assume that some of those people are more mindful about healthy eating and stuff like that, right? So I think that's a great answer. But check this out. If you're just doing it for those trend reasons that I just mentioned, once the business tanks, let's say you lack users or advertisers want to come in, or you haven't really figured out the product because you're not in that industry yourself, you're not living and breathing, running a hospital or in the healthcare business like a Raj, the common thing to do is you bail, you leave, you decide to get out, right? The business implodes, you have a setback, it's hard because it's start from scratch again. But let's say you're truly passionate, you're like Raj, who cares about the healthcare industry. What's cool about that is that you will find a way to make it work. You will pivot. You might make an app. You might decide, you know what? Forget the B2C market or business to consumer. I'm just going to do something that's B2B. I found a need that they all need in a closed social network, not a public social network. It could be a hospital-to-hospital social network. You learned all this because you threw yourself into business as someone in that world who just loves the healthcare world, who just wants to see a value for your core constituents. And over time, as your business scales, whether it goes up or down, you're going to find the grand answer. Or from the beginning, the business might just take off, but it's going to continue to thrive because you're so in it and you love it. So that, folks, is my last piece on how you can go from taking a business using the traditional launch, go out and do a crowdfunding round to prove it out, get the vision funded, then do a seed. If you need a Series A, do it if you have to. Otherwise, go hustle, keep scaling it, Series A, B, all those things, and then build this to a meaningful business. And it would be meaningful when you know that you're just so passionate about it and it's not a trend. Almost every business that's a passion-based business at the end has had the best returns. Any company, I challenge you to find me a business that was purely on trend, just trying to make a quick buck, that's actually been a long-lasting business. There's a reason why there's these books like Built to Last and other kinds of business books, or you hear about people of the Apple world or the Tesla world that have this bigger vision, that see the world on a bigger macro lens. Anyways, folks, that is all from my end. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'm going to take 10 seconds to just see if there's anyone here who would like to give any feedback or comments. But again, this is KUCI 88.9. Totally appreciate you guys jumping on this show. And yeah, have a great day. Bye.